College Place is a video library of noteworthy presentations, panel discussions, and lectures featuring guest speakers and faculty members, taped at one of the Milwaukee Area Technical College's 4 southeastern Wisconsin campuses. These are produced by students in the college's Associate's Degree Program in Television Video Production in coordination with Milwaukee Public Television.
Good evening. I'm Michael Burke. I'm president of Milwaukee Area Technical College and want to welcome everyone. Thank you for coming out after work, and hope you're going to have a wonderful evening tonight with us. First of all, thanks for coming to the reception for our special guest today, Bill Symonds. He's joining us this evening. Bill has been sharing his message, Pathways to Prosperity, in Milwaukee this week. He presented at today's SYSTEMnow conference, and tomorrow he will be meeting with our business leadership at the Greater Milwaukee Committee Insider Breakfast tomorrow morning. I am pleased to have a number of our MATC faculty and staff with us here today to hear Bill's vision for how the American educational system might regain its leadership on the world stage and what opportunities we have to upgrade and revision our educational system in America. As you know, this is if you wander the halls, you'll notice we are beginning our centennial celebration. You'll see more and more displays on campus of the history of MATC. We are entering our 100th year as an institution of higher education. For those of you who have only spent the last year or so with us, like me, you'll be pleased to know that this institution really began with a vision around describing itself as a continuation school for the forgotten children of Milwaukee. And that sense of vision back in 1911, 1912 is really at the heart of who we are, and I think it continues as part of our DNA today as an institution. That sense of social justice that's really at the heart of the protests around child labor in the early part of this century, and how young people in this community were going to be provided educational opportunity as they worked. And that has been part of who we are, and that's part of who this institution continues to be. And I'm very, very proud of that kind of innovative education that really symbolizes who we are. I spent this afternoon over at Carroll College with our provost, Dr. Martin, and associate provost, Dr. Cannell, and several other faculty and staff there signing an innovative partnership with Carroll College around our gaming program downstairs in our creative arts program, and a 4-year degree opportunity. It's probably hard to vision that program evolving out of this institution 100 years ago, but I think it speaks to the heart of who we are as an innovative institution. And one of those innovations that I'm particularly proud of is the way we work with our local business community through advisory boards and building those relationships and those partnerships in our community. And I know that Bill's remarks tonight will help us strengthen the many long-standing connections that we have throughout our community. I know that MATC and the entire region can benefit from Bill's insight tonight, and I'm pleased that he's able to join us. It's now my pleasure to introduce our board chair, Melanie Holmes. Melanie, as she sprints up here.
Good evening, everybody. It is my pleasure to introduce Bill. I've known him for quite a while. I had the honor to share the podium with him a while back at a presentation in Madison, and was very impressed with his message, and was particularly impressed with how it fits with our mission here at MATC. He is a friend of Wisconsin's because he has had family here and has spent many, many, many visits to the state of Wisconsin prior to the Pathways to Prosperity project. So he's a friend of Wisconsin. He's impressed with what we've done with our education systems here in the state, and it's kind of nice to hear something positive about what we've done. But I think tonight you'll be particularly interested in the message that he's giving about how important it is for us to provide pathways to students that are more than a 4-year baccalaureate, that we need to provide options and make those options, make sure people understand those options are pathways to prosperity. So it's my pleasure to introduce Bill, who is the director of the Pathways to Prosperity project at the Harvard Graduate School of Education. I'm sure you'll enjoy his comments. Please, if you do have questions, we would love to hear them when he's finished. So I would like to introduce Bill. Please join me.
Well, good evening, and thanks for coming out. How many people are students at MATC? Okay, and everybody else, how many people are faculty? most of the people know, and I know we have some administrators here. Well, it's really a pleasure to be with you at this historic institution. As Melanie referenced, we came out with a report, Pathways to Prosperity, back in February. And since then, the reaction has really been enormous. I've literally been in half the states now speaking about the report. And the interest in Wisconsin has been especially strong. This is my third visit to Wisconsin since the report came out. Previous two visits were in Madison. And we had an amazing meeting there just a couple of weeks ago, back in October. The University of Wisconsin organizes something called the Family Impact Seminars every year. And this year it was focused on the connection, really sort of the connection between education and the workforce and how we can solve this problem we're facing of massive unemployment. And the thing that was surprising to me is, of course, I'm not in Wisconsin all the time, but I certainly was aware of all the disruptions in Madison earlier this year, the political differences, to say the least. And at that meeting, we had both senior Democrats and senior Republicans in the same room, sitting there for 2 hours discussing this issue. So I think it speaks to the interest in trying to find solutions to these problems. So I think I'm also reminded, being here in Milwaukee, in many ways was one of the most prominent places in the U.S. in terms of manufacturing strength. Huge manufacturing industry here, a lot of which has disappeared in recent years. And that's created a problem that we need to figure out how to solve. So when we launched the report, we were focused on the so-called forgotten half population. So we're talking about primarily young people, because we're really looking at high school up to about the mid-20s, that age range, who are not on the track to success. And we would argue that increasingly we're failing to prepare many of our young people. And our report suggests that a reason for that, why are we failing to prepare them, is that we've taken sort of an elitist approach to education, a one-size-fits-all model. One of the people who worked with us in the research is Gene Bottoms. He's head of a group called High Schools That Work, which works with high schools and improvement. And he likes to say that we Americans think there's only one road to heaven. And the road to heaven is that you start in high school, you take 4 years of college prep courses, you take your ACT or SAT, and then you go off to the University of Wisconsin, or you go to Marquette or someplace like that and earn a bachelor's degree. The problem is right now in 2011, if that's your definition of heaven, only 30% of our 27-year-olds have actually gotten to heaven. So I don't know what religion you are, but the question is, where are the other 70%? They haven't gone to a 4-year school and gotten that degree. So the question is, how are we going to prepare them? So that's one thing that we've looked at, our very narrow definition of what success is. The other thing that we need to look at, though, is what does the labor market of today demand? What does the labor market actually look for? How much education do you need to succeed? And I think a lot of people have misunderstood that. They think a 4-year college might be the only pathway to success. In reality, though, if you look nationwide, only a third of the jobs today actually require a 4-year degree or higher. Only 1/3. Another 30% require some college but less than a 4-year degree, and that's what MATC is really focused on. Your 2 years degrees, your certificates that are recognized by the industry you want to move into. There are almost as many jobs there as there are for the 4-year college graduates, almost as many. It's really an important part of our education system. What we're arguing is that we've overlooked that sector of education to a great degree. We've put a lot of emphasis on the University of Wisconsin. I realize they have a football team and all of that, but still, we put a lot more money and resources into that kind of institution than we have into MATC. And we're suggesting if we're going to solve this problem as a country, we have to broaden our definition of success. Given the reality in the labor market, not everybody needs a 4-year degree. Given the reality in the education system, not everybody is really equipped to go to a 4-year college. And so it makes sense to develop a broader approach. For some people, going to a 4-year college is good. For many others, though, the kind of programs you offer at MATC make a lot more sense. And what that suggests as a society is we need to put more emphasis on institutions like MATC that have really been underappreciated and where we haven't put as many resources as we really need to if we're going to solve this problem. So in our report, we made 3 recommendations on how we can meet the crisis that we're facing. And we really do face a severe crisis. if you look at it in terms of employment, teen employment today is at the lowest level since the Great Depression. It's really a massive problem. And I'm sure if you look around Milwaukee or elsewhere in Wisconsin, you'll see what I'm talking about. If you look at young adult employment, 20 to 24, many of those people are struggling to find jobs. And your president told me that you are the second largest graduate school in the state of Wisconsin. There's over 4,000 people who have bachelor's degrees who are coming back to MITC because they want to learn a skill that's going to allow them to get a job. Some of the degrees from the University of Wisconsin may not be that attractive to employers. If you have a philosophy degree or whatever, it may not lead to a job. So they're coming back to MITC to get the skills they need to really get a job. So that shows that you're really helping to meet this problem. So in our report, we made 3 recommendations in terms of how we're going to address the crisis. Number 1, we're calling for a multiple pathways approach to success. What we're saying is that let's create more than one pathway through which people can succeed. So 4-year college is fine for some. We think the technical college system in Wisconsin is a vital resource, needs to be strengthened and really expanded in some ways. Community colleges play a role in this. So do registered apprenticeship programs, which we in the U.S. have not emphasized anywhere near as much as other countries have. Apprenticeship programs really are a wonderful training vehicle. You're learning on the job, you're not paying high tuition, you're getting paid while you're learning, and you come out with solid skills. It often takes many years to complete those programs. They've been studied, and the success rate on the apprenticeship programs is enormous. Most of the employers who take part in them really like them. And yet, as a country, we really have not created enough of that. So that's another vehicle. So if we take that approach, we're saying, choose the pathway that's most appropriate for you, that's going to meet your needs. And by the way, most of these other pathways are a lot cheaper than a 4-year college. The cost of a 4-year college, if you're looking at private colleges, can be as high as $200,000 or more for 4 years, which is a lot of money. That's one key reason why student debt this year is expected to reach $1 trillion. And to put that in perspective, that's more money than Americans own on their credit cards, which is quite a statement when you consider how much Americans like to use their credit cards. There's more money outstanding in student debt now than there is on credit cards. That creates a real burden for many of our students. So the other pathways I'm talking about, most of those are far more affordable than going to a 4-year college. That's another reason for taking that approach. So multiple pathways is one key element we're stressing. A second element is what's the role of employers? And we really feel if we're going to solve this crisis in Wisconsin and elsewhere, we need to ask the business community to step up in a big way. And we think they can play 3 key roles. The first one is career counseling. How many people here got any meaningful career counseling while you were in high school? Two people. 2 people out of this whole room that had meaningful counseling in high school. So we think the business community can help solve that problem. One reason we don't have counseling in high school is there aren't enough counselors to provide it. The average ratio of high school students to counselors is about 500 to 1. So they don't have time to provide quality career counseling. That's one thing business can help solve that problem because they know what jobs they need. They can talk to students about their needs. The second thing is that business can help design high quality programs of study. At a school like MATC, they can tell the faculty, what skills are we looking for, what's really in demand, and help ensure that those programs have the, teaching the students the right thing. And the third thing is business can really provide opportunities for work-based learning, which we think has enormous potential for training people. So while you're going to school, can you be working in the field you want to go into at the same time, getting some actual experience in the industry. I know you have a strong culinary program, so take the courses here, the academic courses, the training in the kitchens here, but then also hopefully work in the restaurant industry, find out what it's like in the real world, and you're going to come out as a much better prepared chef than you would be if you were just doing the courses. So we think the business community has a major role, but we're going to have a cultural change if we get a lot of the businesses involved in that. And the third thing we're calling for is what we call a new social compact, what that means very simply is let's bring together the key stakeholders in a given community like Milwaukee, the educators, the business community, government leaders, come together and say, who are the people who are left behind, who aren't prepared to succeed, and what are we going to do to help them succeed? So I think the good news is, I think there really is interest here in Wisconsin in trying to move in this direction. Before I even came here, I was invited to be on a call-in show on Wisconsin Public Radio. Started at 6 a.m. and I was wondering, is that too early? I said, well, not in Wisconsin. People here like to get up early. So that show was, it went around the whole state. It was broadcast out of Madison. I was back in Boston, but the calls came in from all over the state. And what most of the people were saying is, they were relating stories about people in their family or maybe themselves. They tried to go to an academic college, a liberal arts program or whatever. It just didn't work out. It didn't lead to a job. And then they found a career that they could really pursue. It might be welding, it might be working in the culinary industry, possibly working as a nurse or something like that, where the technical college system really played a key role in that. So I think what that indicates is at the grassroots level, at the level of the ordinary Wisconsinite, there's a real understanding that we need to focus on this issue. How are we going to improve our education system so that when students go to school, they're going to be prepared to enter the workforce and get a good job? Then, as I say, I was just at the legislature last month, and we had a lot of legislators there, both from the Senate and the House, from both parties. I think there's real interest in trying to address this crisis at that level. And then here in Milwaukee, tomorrow I'm going to be speaking to the Greater Milwaukee Committee. Hopefully the business community will get on board as well. And if so, we're hoping that Wisconsin can become one of the pathway states and try to work to improve the education system. And I think one of the goals is to try to restore Wisconsin to where it was at one time, really a world leader, both in education and in prosperity. This was one of the most prosperous places in the face of the planet. And a lot of jobs have been lost, but I think if we improve our education system, we can help solve that problem and really create a far better tomorrow. So that's a quick look at what we talked about in the report. I'd really welcome your questions or comments.
And my question relates to portable credentials.
Uh-huh.
How do you see that playing a bigger role in what you're talking about in relations to the industry, whether you're looking at welding or tool and die? Many of the companies have different sets of standards, and trying to train students to be able to master those competencies universally is very difficult. And places like Virginia, North Carolina have gotten these compacts where they've come to a set of agreements related to the competencies that a student needs to be able to demonstrate and master so that they can be successful. And once they came to that agreement in the business and industry aspects and in the educational institutes that we're going to teach them, that portable credential led them to getting a job immediately because that credential then demonstrated that that student could succeed. And I think that universally across the United States, we need to move closer to a universal agreement on what students need to be able to demonstrate and master, so that whether we're moving beyond the entry level and moving to a standard of students being able to get a job that pays a living wage, that creates a guarantee for not only the educational institution that's training the student, but our partner with the business community, that they know that they're getting a quality person. And
Right.
I don't see, if we don't get to that point, how we're going to be able to help move more students into the areas of employment.
Yeah, so that's part of the answer to that question goes to the role of the business community. The business community has to help define what they're looking for, what they're expecting, from an institution like MATC, and lay out those standards. I think the clearer they can be, the better off it is. What kind of skills are they looking for? What do they expect new hires to have? And I think you're absolutely right. We need to do a much better job of clarifying what credential you need, what's included in that credential, and really the standard should be a nationally recognized credential that's going to be good wherever you are. Now let me say at the same time, the research that Manpower has done, and Melanie is from Manpower, indicates that Americans are becoming less mobile. than they used to be at one time. So that would mean that you're here in Milwaukee, you might not be as willing to leave Wisconsin as maybe you would have been 20 or 30 years ago. Our society is changing in that regard. So we ought to give a special attention to the credentials that Wisconsin employers are looking for. But that really has to be the benchmark of how do you get into the labor force.
Good evening. My name is Michael Rosen. I teach economics at Milwaukee Area Technical College, and I'm also president of the faculty union. My question is, Wisconsin at one time, and still does, have a state indentured apprenticeship program. And at one time it was a very large and successful system. You've indicated, and I entirely agree with you, that the apprenticeship program is a critical pathway to prosperity. I'm wondering, in your conversations with the business community, if you have been successful in convincing them to restore these apprenticeship programs. In the 1980s, throughout manufacturing in the Milwaukee area, these apprenticeship programs were gutted. In many cases eliminated entirely. And as you indicated, it's got high degree of success when people talk about the ability to portable credentials. An apprenticeship and a journeyman's card is as portable a credential as one can get. And so I'm wondering what your experience is in working with the business community and beginning or restoring or reviving apprenticeship programs. Thank you.
Well, I think we're going to need to do a lot of work. We're really talking about a fundamental cultural change to get the business community to see how much of a stake they have in solving this problem. And I think they do have a responsibility to step up and help solve it. I think we can, at the same time, hopefully broaden the definition of fields where apprentices can be applied. In Switzerland, more than half the kids in high school there are in apprenticeship programs, more than half. In other words, that's the mainstream approach. And they don't have it just for manufacturing, they have it across the board. So let's say you want to go into culinary or the hospitality industry, they have apprenticeships for that. And it's a very rigorous program. For example, they expect students who go through there to be trilingual, actually, to be able to speak French, German, and English. It's a bilingual country, so you need French and German for that, English to speak to the Americans who come through and other people who speak English. That's all part of the apprenticeship program. And when you go to work there in a hotel, for example, you're expected to learn every aspect of that hotel, really gain an encyclopedic knowledge of what it takes to succeed in that hotel. And it's something that's been used in the culinary industry actually for centuries. That's how the great chefs were all trained. They started out peeling potatoes and worked their way up through an apprenticeship type approach. Employers might say, well, we got a rough economy right now, we don't want to put any money into that. But the long-term rewards are really enormous. In Germany, the way BMW and Mercedes get their workers is they're not going into the beer halls and asking people, would you like to work at Mercedes? They're all coming through the apprenticeship programs. And those students are spending years as apprentices. And through that process, a company like Mercedes or BMW can say, who's going to work out well and who isn't. They're going to be able to identify the workers who really have potential. So it's going to save them a lot of money in terms of worker recruitment cost. Once they start full-time, they're already going to know the whole system, so they're not going to have to spend any extra money on training. Meanwhile, the apprentices are working while they're apprentices. And the way they structure it over there is you get paid less as an apprentice. You're not getting paid the same as a full-time worker, but you're not writing a tuition check either. So, for the students not acquiring any debt, you're working there, you're not getting paid as much as a full-time worker, but you're not acquiring debt. So it's a winning situation for the student. You're getting trained on state-of-the-art equipment because you're right at the BMW or Mercedes factory, and it's really a winning situation for the employer. And I think a lot of companies have lost sight of the fact that's really the way to get your best employees. Somebody who's been trained on the job, learned the culture and everything, and decided, yeah, this is a great fit for me, and I want to stay here and work there. Now, you're going to have people that wash out. They're going to get out there and they decide, well, this isn't the kind of work I want to do, or I don't like the people that work here or whatever, and they're going to leave. That's fine. that's actually a savings in the long run, because companies can spend a lot of money hiring somebody who doesn't know anything about a company. They get there, find out it's not a good fit. Meanwhile, they've invested all that money in the job search and trying to train them and everything, and it all goes down the drain. So the apprenticeship system makes sense almost any way you look at it. The Urban Institute did a study of this, and 98% of the employers said they would recommend it. 98%. I mean, you don't get that kind of agreement on any question. Is Elvis alive? I mean, there are a lot more people who think Elvis is alive than who disagree with the idea that apprenticeship is a good idea. So we need to start a conversation with the business community and bring back this approach to worker development and training.
Good evening. My name is Zenobia Davis. I am a dental hygiene student here at MATC. I'm also representing our downtown student government. I like the idea of the apprenticeship program. I was actually eligible to be in a Wisconsin apprenticeship in high school. To get the position, they asked us to take a non-pass or fail survey. After I took it, they actually answered honestly. I was told that I wasn't going to be given the position because of the way I answered that question. I'm wondering, why are you giving a non-pass or fail? Are you familiar with those type of surveys for apprenticeship? It was called the Youth Apprenticeship is what the program was called. And they gave you 3 different options. I remember that one was automotive, one was nursing, and I can't remember what the third one was. I've been out of high school for 10 years now. And I opted for automotive because my uncles were mechanics. I thought a little bit about it. And I never received it because I was told I didn't pass the non-pass or fail survey. So it's like, and I love the apprenticeship. Right now I work in our dental clinic here at MATC, and so I'm actually getting on-job training while I'm in school, and I took that position because it's going to put me in a better position for employment once I graduate. But, I don't know how every state is orchestrated, but it seems like sometimes in Wisconsin, the cultural economy is kind of set up to fail sometimes. And how do we plan to kind of bridge that gap with the people that are left behind because they're from those communities or categorized because they attend those schools?
Yeah. Well, I don't know anything about the survey you were asked to take. It does sound really weird. Let me say, the program you were trying to get into, the Wisconsin Youth Apprenticeship, is actually a great program. Most states do not have that at all. They don't have any kind of apprenticeship program like that for high school students. So it's really pretty unique to Wisconsin. And the kids who have gone through it, it's been very successful. The problem is the size is really small. And I know we've got people here from Milwaukee Public Schools that say that they've got a lot of students they'd like to place, and they just cannot find the places to put them in. There aren't enough employers willing to take them on. So that's something that needs to be worked on to improve, to improve opportunities. I don't know what happened in your case. It doesn't sound right that you take a non-pass or fail test and somehow fail it. But in any event, I think that that's a program that needs to be expanded. But it sounds like now you are getting an opportunity, right, in the dental hygiene program to work with patients and everything? Yeah. Well, that's good.
Hello everyone, I'm James Flores. I'm the president of the Native American Student Movement here at MATC. I'll keep this short and sweet. I just wanted to say you gave a good speech. And as we all know, you can win a presidency on giving good speeches. And I just want to know what the business committee's fundamentals are. What are their goals, and what have the goals that they achieved?
Well, I don't think the business community is one monolithic organization. Different companies have different viewpoints. There are companies that really believe in the importance of training the next generation of workers and putting a lot of resources into that. Unfortunately, not every company shares that. And I think that's why we need a cultural change. We need to, we're all in this economy together. The business community has a responsibility to step up and really work. And as I travel around the country, I see some incredible examples. One is down in Kentucky. Kentucky has got, I think, the largest Toyota plant in the U.S., Georgetown, Kentucky. I think it's the oldest Toyota plant also, here in the U.S. And they've decided that they don't think the existing education system in Kentucky is really giving them the workers they want. So they're setting up their own program, which really amounts to an apprenticeship type program to work with young people and help them see what it's like to work in Toyota, plus giving them the education they need to succeed there. So that's a company that's making a major investment. They really think that by doing that, they're going to end up producing higher quality cars going forward. It's going to help, lead to a stronger company. But we need to help more companies around Wisconsin and elsewhere realize that.
Hi, my name is Carl Ege. I'm a service worker for one of the departments here at the college. I guess there's some tangential references to the loss of power of unions and social groups that enforce the labor structure here in Wisconsin. And my question is, what are your thoughts on how can we impart a sense of value, a sense of self-worth, a sense of determination in people who are imparting this system in this changing economy? Obviously, the systems that we relied on are changing. Milwaukee being a socialist, being unionist, those things changing as we go on. The value of workers in the economy as opposed to management, that structure, that balance. Maybe you have some thoughts on how can we impart a sense of value to the people who are coming out with real skills and real value to fit into an economy at an equilibrium with those who are in management.
Right. So your question is a lot broader than what the focus of our report is. I mean, you're asking about things that really go beyond the bounds of. We were talking about how we can improve, the education and training system, and obviously there's other issues we have to deal with. I do think that if we, take this approach, one of the byproducts of it would be to increase the idea that almost every job can be viewed as a profession, and that's what you see in a country like Switzerland. They have over 200 different apprentices all across the board. So they have one for the banking industry, for example, but as I say, they also have hotels and restaurants and many other different fields. And what they're trying to establish in those is that this is a profession that's important to succeed at. It's got real value. And I think we need to regain that sense in the U.S. We've taken a very elitist approach to education. And, can we produce more doctors and lawyers and that kind of thing? The problem is most Americans are not going to be in those jobs. We need a wide range of jobs in this country, and I think increasing the appreciation for that. One of my favorite examples, and it really is ridiculous, is the way people in the auto industry are regarded. Auto mechanics, auto technicians are regarded as sort of the whipping boy in terms of career education. But it makes no sense at all. Look at how many cars we got on the road. I mean, there's no shortage of cars. And when the car breaks down, people are going to want to get it fixed. They want to get it fixed right the first time. If you know anything about auto mechanics today, it's a far different job than it used to be. The average manual that's used by somebody in that industry is about a grade 14 reading level. So well beyond, it's really at a college reading level. The first thing you do when the car breaks down, unless it's just a flat tire or something, is hook it up to a computer. So you've got to know how to work with computers. It's very technically sophisticated, and it's a job that often pays quite well. But I was out in California recently at a high school in a very affluent area, and they think they're above all of that stuff. Now, they do have one guy teaching auto mechanics, but they don't allow the kids to spend much time in there. And I talked to this teacher. He said, back when I was in the industry, I was making over $100,000 a year. I was making more than these teachers are, and yet they look at me like I'm the bottom of the barrel. So we've got to get beyond that way of looking at things. If we're going to have cars, which we do, we need to appreciate the people who take care of them as professionals, like virtually all of them are. Same thing is true for the culinary industry. So I think that's part of it. Now, in terms of the benefits, the wage structure and all of that, that goes into other issues that we didn't really get into in this report. Obviously, there's a number of issues we have to deal with. But I think if we can start instilling the idea that all of these professions are valuable, hopefully that would go some way towards reducing the increasing income inequality we see.
Hello, I'm Brian Galecki. I'm here as a student at MATC in Computer Electronics, and I'm also a member of student government. And my question for you is, I hear a general statistic that employees are staying with a certain employer for about 3 years and then moving on. And there are probably some different aspects and reasons why. Maybe it's financial, maybe they're looking for an increase in pay. Maybe they don't have training to advance further in management or higher up within the company, or maybe it's just that their skill set has changed because of adapting industries. Do you see a role that the technical college system can play to further prepare or equip students that they don't currently provide? Is there something you can change to improve that within the system?
Well, I think the technical college, in fact, does address a lot of those issues in terms of worker retraining and short-term programs that can help workers improve their skills. Again, I think this comes back to priorities and what we're going to invest in. Funding for the technical college system in Wisconsin has been cut back at a time of massive unemployment and huge need. So I think we need to put more resources into that. Certainly MATC and other technical colleges should always be trying to stay at the cutting edge in terms of what industry needs, where the job opportunities are, working to set up programs that actually relate directly to what the workforce needs. As I travel around the country, one example I saw that is in Oklahoma, where Oklahoma decided to try to create what they hoped would be the best technology center program in the U.S. And they worked closely with industry to find in that given area, like I was in Tulsa, what are the industries that really need people and what do they need them in? So one example was in truck maintenance, because there's a lot of trucks moving back and forth through Oklahoma. They repair a lot of heavy trucks there. So they created a truck maintenance program. And this is primarily designed for juniors and seniors in high school and recent graduates. And when they complete that program, it's about a 2-year program, they're coming out jobs paying about $40,000 a year. So it's there they've got the resources to have really great equipment, beautiful buildings, and it's tied directly into what jobs are needed. Another example is American Airlines has their maintenance facility there. So they hire a lot of people to maintain the airplanes, so they have an aircraft maintenance program. And again, they're working on American Airlines equipment, learning how to tear down jet engines and that kind of thing, and then when they come out, they get a job. So that kind of partnership is really critical for technical colleges here, to be as close to the business community as possible, trying to figure out what jobs are going to be opening up and training people for those jobs.
Good evening. My name is Hayward Jenkins, and I'm a television student. I'm also a member of the student government as a representative. I just saw an article maybe a day or a couple of days ago about work study being eliminated from colleges. I just wanted to know, how do we protect that? And if they're thinking about cutting that, what's going to stop them from cutting student federal loans or grants and things of that nature? So how do we protect that?
Well, we think that work-based learning or work that's directly related to what you're studying is incredibly important. So in your case, what the ideal situation would be if you could get a job in the television industry or in the broadcast or communications industry, something that's closely related to what you're studying, so you can be working in that industry at the same time you're taking courses here at MATC. That's not the same thing as what people usually mean by work study, but that's what we think we should expand those opportunities. Now, the question about student loans, that's really going to be up to Congress. Right now they have a super committee meeting to decide what they're going to cut in the budget, and they haven't released the, what the cuts are going to be. So I don't know what the future of that is going to be. Up until now, there have been plenty of student loans out there. My concern is that many students may be taking on too much debt. It's really become a huge issue. And are you going to be able to pay off the debt, or what impact is that going to have on you? I think if we had a more integrated approach where you're able to work while you're studying, you wouldn't have to take on as much debt to be a student. And so when you graduated, you'd be in better shape than you would be if you graduate with a lot of debt.
Hi, I'm George Stone. I teach natural science here at MATC. I teach about the real world. We've heard a lot of discussion about preparing for jobs in industry, and of course that's very, very important. But we also need to consider preparing for jobs that serve society and the community, and I'm thinking particularly about education. Now, we have an excellent teacher education program here at MATC with some great people who are very dedicated. I wish there were more students in it, and I see it as a societal problem, a cultural problem, not just in this community, but around the country, that teachers are undervalued and under-respected. Now, we're a great role model here at MATC because we compensate and appreciate our teachers here, and so we're able to attract and retain some really outstanding teachers, which makes us so effective. But in the public school systems around the country, that's not so, because compared to other countries and relative incomes, we underappreciate, underrespect, and undercompensate our teachers, and this, to really get meaningful education reform and attract a lot of good people, good students, dedicated people into teaching, we need to raise the level of appreciation and respect for teachers. I remember I saw President Obama in an interview on the Today Show about 6 months ago, and he said in China, 90% of the teachers graduate in the top 10% of their college classes, whereas in the United States, 49% graduate in the lowest third. Why is that? Because we don't respect teachers, we don't compensate them, and even now, politically, for some, it seems to be beneficial to call teachers lazy and spoiled and overpaid, and it's just a serious problem. I think it's a cultural problem that we have to overcome if we're going to raise the level of education across the board in this country. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that teachers are vitally important, and we're not going to solve the problem without excellent teachers. I think part of this goes back to the issue of career counseling, and talking to young people about what they're really, best equipped to do. And one story I like to tell is that one of my wife's best friends married a guy named Gerard, and Gerard really loved history. He wanted to be a history teacher. He went to college, got his bachelor's degree, then he went to graduate school and got a master's degree, and he was just about finishing up when somebody said, Gerard, there's no money in teaching. He was making exactly the point you are. So what you ought to do is be a paralegal. And so based on that in-depth career counseling, Gerard decided to become a paralegal. And it worked out well for a while. He actually got paid more money than he would have as a teacher. The problem is then the economy went down and the law firm fired him. There's obviously no union or anything like that. He had no benefits whatsoever. He was unemployed for a year, and during that year he had a lot of time to think because he was unemployed, and he thought, I really hate my job. I just hate it. There's no meaning in the job. I mean, other than the paycheck. He didn't like, this is a guy who really was meant to be a history teacher, but he got thrown off course because someone gave him that advice. So I think many people realize as they go through life that what they're getting paid is part of it, but there's other aspects that are important too. You spend an awful lot of time at a job, and if you don't like it, the hours can get really long. The other side of it is, even in today's economy, with teachers under-respected and everything, I personally know some teachers who are so dedicated, it literally brings tears to your eyes. I mean, my son's football coach is like that. This guy is the dean of students. This is a son of mine who goes to a vocational high school. So he's the dean of students. He's also the football coach. The football coach takes a huge number of hours. And he's working with all these kids to try to figure out what position they're going to play, how they're going to improve their skills and everything. And then when the football season is over, he's also the wrestling coach. He's putting in all these hours. He's not getting paid anywhere near enough for that, but that's what he wants to do. He wants to work with the kids and help them. So I think the career counseling and that focus is part of it. Changing the way teachers are compensated is clearly another aspect. And the most urgent part of that problem, by the way, is not what you mentioned in your remarks. It's actually with the preschool kids, because there's been lots of research. There's more than enough research to demonstrate the most important years of life are the first 5 years, before you actually get to kindergarten. There's been study after study that's documented that. We don't need any more research. The problem is that, do you realize that teachers who work with preschool kids are the worst paid profession in America? The absolute bottom of the line, the lowest paid of all. So if we want to start somewhere, that would be the first place to start.
Don't go away. Don't go away. I mean, you can give me the microphone, but don't go far. Thank you so much, Bill, and thank you guys for the terrific questions. I'm really pleased that that you were so engaged, and I hope you learned some stuff tonight from Bill's comments. One of the things that he didn't tell the story, but one of the things that impresses me the most about Bill is that he absolutely walks the talk. He does have a son in the Boston area who is at a vocational high school in a culinary program. So he not only just talks about this, he's living it, which I think is very, very impressive. So Michael mentioned earlier, or excuse me, Dr. Burke mentioned earlier that we're celebrating our centennial. So I have a few little centennial gifts here for you to remember the Milwaukee Area Technical College. I know you won't forget Wisconsin, but to help you remember MATC. Thank you so much for your time, Bill. We appreciate it.